We're in Mammoth today, Mammoth Trail Fest, talking with Tim Tollefson. It's a super cool race, and I really enjoyed this conversation. As a fan of the elite version of ultra trail running, it's just a real treat to talk to Tim. One of the things I love about this sport, that even the best of the best in the sport are extremely approachable. The ethos of ultra trail running and the races where there's just so much generosity and kindness happening at aid stations and in between aid stations and at the finish and start line. It's cool that the elite version of the sport is no different. And so I'm really thankful that Tim took the time to tell me all about Mammoth today. It's a popular trail fest. It's sold out. As we did the interview, it was already sold out for 2024. So even if you listen to this and want to sign up, you can't, but you got to get ready for 2025. Who knows if it's going to be a lottery in the future or how he's going to approach it, but there's high demand, and rightfully so. It's just if you've seen video from it or photos from it, it's just a beautiful race put on by some quality people. Before we get into that, though, we just released a documentary, episode 4 of Trail Grit, which is called Lucky Number 10, of my return to the 100-mile distance after 8 DNFs. I've only finished once, had 8 DNFs, went back for Zion. Episode 4, I think it's just a beautiful episode. My guy Ben Roby at Honey Videography did an incredible job with cinematography, an incredible job with editing. And I'm just very, very, very proud of it. So hope you'll hop on, links in the show notes below, hop on YouTube and give that a watch. I'd be really grateful. All right. Without any further ado, Tim Tollefson.
All right. I am attempting to talk about a lot of ultra trail running events in lieu of running them. And I would actually rather run them. I'd rather be at them, at least as a spectator. But because I can't, this season 3 of the podcast is all about the interesting courses around the world. It could be the big races like UTMB. It can be smaller races, sub 100 people, which I think have a ton of charm and are worth knowing about just the same. My love is for the 100-miler, but and I'm also trying to get out of the West. Like, I know the Western bias. I'm in the West. I'm in Salt Lake City. But I'm trying to get out of the West, and I'm trying to do shorter distances. Today, I did not get out of the West, but I did accomplish some shorter distances. And today, I have a special guest, Tim Tollefson, here to talk about Mammoth Trail Fest in Mammoth, California. Tim, first, welcome. Thank you, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you, Josh.
Yeah. So let's just hop right into the Trail Fest. First off, you came out of the gates with a festival, not just like one race. Is that true?
That is true.
So do you have partners or are you a masochist? What's the deal?
I am certified insane. Thankfully, I do have really good partners locally. And that first year, I didn't communicate real well what I was thinking. And then about a week or 2 out, they realized what I had planned and they said, "You need help." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So like they stepped in and really like saved the day, which was awesome. Testament just to our small town. Everyone kind of works well together. But yeah, it was, I guess I just only kind of know how to do things like either not at all or absolutely insane. So we just went for it.
Yeah, totally with you on that. Now, these partners, are they like equity partners? They own it, or are they like just like your right-hand people?
Right-hand people. So TrailFest itself, I still own 100% of that. And the nice thing about that is then like we get to craft whatever we want. Like, so I listen to the community, and if they want something different, then we do something different, and we don't have to answer to anyone above me, which is cool.
Yeah. What about, sorry, go ahead.
My main partners, thankfully I have a really good relationship with the ski area here, Mammoth Mountain ski area. Also our local tourism board and our town of Mammoth Lake. So all of those entities are departments that I work with to make this happen.
Okay. Oh man, that's great. Then for you personally, I guess let's get this out of the way. I guess I did an episode about the No Business 100, and through the course of that, I learned that Kentucky is north of Tennessee. My geography is absolute garbage. I was thinking that they were headed from Tennessee somewhere west, and that was Kentucky over there. So I don't help me with geography. I have a friend who's done architecture, like some really interesting buildings in Mammoth. I have a friend who ran a resort there. Where the hell is it?
We are kind of smack in the middle of California, but up in the High Sierra. So
Okay.
from town, we are 26 miles from Yosemite on a trail. So most people know where Yosemite is. That's more on
Oh,
the western side of the Sierra. We
okay.
are directly over the crest of the Sierra and on the east side. And
Okay.
but we're about 3 hours south of Reno and 5 hours
Oh,
northeast of LA. So we're kind of right in the middle of California.
gosh. Okay. Yeah, man. I was thinking, man, are you closer to like to Reno? I mean, clearly not. So, that you're a destination.
We are. It's definitely it's a tourist based economy. Like you have to work pretty hard to get out here, but once you do,
Yeah.
it's it'll blow your mind. Like I grew
Yeah.
up in the Sacramento region, going to Tahoe all the time, and I still
Uh-huh.
love Tahoe. But once I discovered Mammoth, I was blown away, and I didn't
Huh.
realize it was in the same state, and it
Yeah.
really makes Tahoe look like just little roller hills. Like we
Yeah.
have some massive peaks out here.
Yeah. So I think maybe a version of you that we have in Salt Lake, obviously, is all Speed Goat, the race and the person. Um, it's like this. Have you run Speed Goat?
I have a couple times.
Yeah, so it's absurd, in terms of the amount of vert, and it's a ski resort type of race. Is Are yours that, I don't want to say gimmicky, but are they intense?
No, we are the exact opposite of Speed Goat.
Okay.
I love Carl. He's a dear friend, but
Yeah.
when I started out with TrailFest, it was really important to me that everything aesthetically made sense and
Yeah.
nothing would be contrived. So I pieced together my favorite local trails that I like to run on. And those are typically because of the aesthetic, the beauty, and the flow. Is not that
Hmm.
they unnecessarily punish you.
Yeah.
And granted, we are at between 8,000 feet and 11,000 feet, so there's enough
Oh
punishment
man.
in there. But our
Yeah.
50K has about 6,500 to 7,000 feet of gain, which it's proper, but it's not packing
Right.
in every ounce of vert that I could. I
Yeah.
could be a masochist and have you go up and down just silly trails, but I wanted it to make sense. Where if you look at the map, you think, oh, we're doing one big loop of Mammoth.
Okay. So you're putting together courses that you would enjoy running. I mean, that's the base level, right? You're saying that's what you would.
Yeah, these are the trails I train on,
Yeah.
and it's I wouldn't want to have people sign up for something that I wouldn't want to do.
Yeah. So then, do you have the struggle of wanting to actually run these races instead of being on the walkie-talkie?
I'm actually pretty at peace with it, and I think it's
Yeah.
that I've had my fair share of time on these trails, and it's really
Sure.
neat to be able to expose other people to it. And that's
Hmm.
really kind of the big push, or like the big foundation of Mammoth Trail Fest is it's here to serve the community and bring more people into the fold of trail running. And
Yeah.
we think that, like, even though we are at altitude and we're a mountain race, like we've had a lot of first timers come out from the Midwest or East Coast, and they'd never been on a mountain before, and they completed the 50K. And that's what
Mm.
we are all about. Like we want to
Yeah. Yeah.
welcome people, and hopefully they fall in love with the sport. And then if they want something masochistic, they go to Speed Goat, or
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
find
Going out.
another race that will
Yeah.
kick their butt. But we really want TrailFest to be sort of this all welcoming family affair that we got something for everyone out here.
Yeah. Well, and see, you are, if Ultra Sign Up tells the truth, which I think it usually does. You're 39. Is that true?
I am.
So this can be the last time we mention Carl. How about we mention someone else? Browning, Jeff Browning, who's
Yeah,
older, not old,
and
just older.
crushing.
Yes, and still doing well. Is Mammoth in any way? I mean, clearly it's an expression. From my perspective, it's an expression of a career that you've had and notoriety that you've had that you can then turn into growing the sport, giving back to the sport, and at the same time, maybe even creating a career that keeps you from traveling. That's just my guess. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But is this maybe let's go back to that last part then. Is this like is this your career that you're trying to establish for yourself in Mammoth here, or like what exactly what does it mean to you, like as a
Yeah.
person?
Well, I think there are a lot of layers to that answer. I've
Yeah.
been in Mammoth for 13 years. And for the first 10 years, I worked full time as a therapist at our hospital, a physical therapist,
Okay.
and which was really great because I got to connect on like a personal one-on-one basis with so many of our local community members. At the same time, I was traveling the world, racing and having opportunities. And during that entire decade, I just like it occurred to me like we should really have some sort of event or trail running race in Mammoth because it's so prime for it. We have this great small community that loves the mountains. We have all the infrastructure, the beautiful terrain, and I just kind of started falling in love with the idea of creating that so that other people could come here and enjoy the region the way I have for over a decade. And so in this, it was like, I mean, as anyone that has started something, like it was pretty terrifying because I had this stable career as a therapist, and like I didn't have any background in business or any of those like I don't know skill sets. And it I eventually just kind of like took a leap of faith, saying that like this is what I want to do. I love running. I love the trails. I love the community, and it felt like a way that I could start serving our community in a larger scale than just a one-on-one patient therapist basis. And it's been really fun because it has become something that locally a lot of our partners and just small businesses see the value in it, and they want to get involved, which allows us to offer an even better experience to our runners, because that's the ultimate goal. We're in the experiential kind of like business in the sense that like we want you to come here, fall in love with trail running, and hopefully that inspires you to do something in your own neighborhood or go seek out other trails and either run them, volunteer at them, or just kind of be part of this community. And so I see this as being something that I want to do for the rest of my life. It's it's an uphill challenge and battle every year. For anyone that has directed a race, they know there are a lot of hurdles and obstacles, but I feel like we are building a really great team with people that have the same kind of goals and intention, and I just don't think we'll go wrong in the long run.
Have you talked to has the Visitors Bureau, or have you internally run like any sort of impact reports, like economically? Not, you don't have to give me the dollar amounts. I'm just curious, like how many people are you bringing to Mammoth for the event? I mean, I've started 13 restaurants. My life has been starting things. When there's a cool event and my establishments got to enjoy, like Outdoor Retailers was here forever. And when Outdoor Retailers would come, I'd get all the greatest of outdoor brands and stuff. And it was really cool for me as a restaurant owner. What do you know, like your impact of that area?
So it's a great question, and something that we're trying to do better at monitoring this year and going forward. But like the small metrics that we have been able to tease out have shown that so last year I think we had about 1,200 runners at TrailFest, and on the post-event survey they said they brought an average of 2.9 people per runner with them. So that's looking at a couple thousand people that came into town, and you can kind of extrapolate what that might mean in terms of heads and beds or like money to the businesses. And one really cool metric that I do have is people are familiar with Spartan, I'm sure. They brought a event the month after us to Mammoth. I think it's called the Spartan World Championships obstacle racing. I don't know. I'm confused with that, but it was something. And based on the lodging numbers, TrailFest brought 4 times the amount of lodging that Spartan brought. So that was a good metric that, I didn't have all the exact numbers, but it shows that we are starting to have an impact on our town. And that is one of our goals. Like I said, TrailFest was built on community for community, and we define community as our runners, anyone that comes in contact with TrailFest in any sense, if it's just their socials or if they're here on site or if they run the race or if they volunteer, but then also our local community, like all the people that live. As you know, mountain towns are a difficult place to survive, and there's a high, like attrition rate for a lot of reasons for residents. And so if we can help like kind of bolster some of that burden through the shoulder season, which is when TrailFest takes place, we view it as just a net positive for our entire community.
Yeah, you beat me to it. The shoulder season in a mountain town, if you're giving them an excuse to be open, which sometimes can be hard because it's like, hey, we're going to be closed for the shoulder season, but there's 4,000 people coming in town and we can make a month's worth of revenue in 5 really difficult days. They're going to reopen for that or come back for that. I think about friends I have that have restaurants in Moab. It's the same thing. Like, man, people like you and anyone doing events in that area, man, it's a huge boost. So that's from a former restaurateur. Thank you.
And it's been fun because I have a lot of friends that are restaurant owners in town, and
Yeah.
being able to encourage them to, hey, let's keep those doors open, or what can we do to drive people into your restaurant? Like, it's really rewarding to see that be successful.
Yeah.
Because I mean, selfishly, I want all those restaurants to stay around. Like, I love
Totally.
them. Like, so
Yes.
it sucks when they close down, and
Yeah,
then
that's what I was going to say. And as a local,
yeah,
the shoulder seasons really suck. I mean, there's
yeah,
nothing nowhere to go for the local. So they're opening up. So tell me about this. Like when you're designing the course, because is that the hat that you wear also? Your course, like you are actually in the app, like whatever, building your routes and stuff. Is that you?
yeah. So for the first couple of years, you pick a role and I had to fulfill it. Like probably like any
Yes.
entrepreneur as they're starting to build something,
Yep.
and some of that is due to necessity. Like you don't have capital or anything to like hire someone else, and then
Yeah.
also you don't even know what you're doing, so you have to get your hands dirty and kind of figure it out on the fly. So yeah,
Yes.
I actually took
Yes.
a couple years to design the courses.
Okay.
It and a lot of that was going back and forth between. I love maps, so I'm always inside El Topo and all these
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
programs, just mapping out things for my own training. But
Yeah.
then, like, what I thought would be a great course wasn't necessarily received by the Forest Service or other people. So, like,
Oh
there was a
gosh. Yeah.
constant back and forth of like, oh,
Uh-huh.
no, we need to tweak this, and
Yeah.
I'm really happy with what we settled on. But that was a multi-year project.
Yeah, I've got a race that we put on here in the foothills of downtown Salt Lake, and I can't do that detail work. Like that just kills me. I've got two partners, like equity partners, and they're
Yeah.
detail people that help me a ton. But when you're designing those courses, are you designing them? Who are you? I mean, you talk about runners being part of the center of your target, but you would call yourself a runner, and I would call myself a runner, and we are not the same. You know what I mean? Tell
What?
me
We're
about
not
the
the
runners.
same.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I ran Zion the 100 mile a few weeks ago. I got 35 and a half hours. How did you do at your last 100? I think you did faster than that. I was at the finish line when you crossed at UTMB last year, and you were faster
Oh
than me
yeah,
at Zion.
I mean, I wasn't too far ahead. Like it was, I think it was under 30 or something. But
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
anyway, when you're designing that course, I mean, you're thinking of runner experience, no doubt. I guess where I'm going with this is, do you want this to be a stop on the elite circuit, or are you just looking to be casting a wide net?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. And I have this working thesis that we can have like the ultra competitive tip of the spear and the brand new newcomers that are
Mm-hmm.
just getting exposed to the sport. Like I come from the marathoning world, and that's kind of how that is. You get to line up with the Dina Casters and the Meb Kefleskis on the same start line, even though it
Yeah.
might be your very first time running 26 miles. And I think that's really cool. And in ultras,
Yes.
you hear a lot of that also. Like you
Yeah.
get to line up with Courtney DeWalter at certain races, and it's like this is
Yep.
mind blowing. And
Yeah.
but as I designed the course, it was more for thinking about, well, and I guess this will answer a question. Um, I really think about like every single turn and route or direction based on what the runner is going to see, feel, and experience. And that's
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of how I am as a runner. Even though I have done UTMB and I've done these kind of crazy Euro races, I
Yeah.
actually prefer the races that make sense, are a little more flowy. They kick your butt, but then you get reprieve and you can like kind of catch your breath.
Yeah.
I like to run. I'm not a big hiker, so
Mm-hmm.
I like having options to have like some buffed out, California carpet. And so, and what I've realized talking to a lot of the other pros, if it's a quote unquote easier terrain, we just run harder and it's just fast.
Yeah.
We run faster, which just makes it equally as hard. It's like
Yeah.
you're
Smart.
redlining at six
Yeah.
minute pace or you're redlining at 20-minute pace up 1,000-foot grade or 1,000-foot climb. So it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter, but I really tried to design them for basically enjoyment of if you're a first timer, or I mean, we are part of the Golden Trail World Series, so we have
Okay.
some of the best runners in the world come
Okay.
out. Last year, Remy Bonnet and Judith
Oh, nice.
Wider, they won our races, and Remy's a multi-time world champ on the skis, and so we had like legitimate pros in town, and that's our goal. Is we want to keep doing that, where we have something for those guys, and they can just rip it, and then we could have something for your friend that's never raced, and they want to
Yeah.
come out and just experience it.
Yeah. I love that. So it's sold out. already. Did I see that
Yeah, it's
correctly?
crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Is that a function of, so I mean, I've dealt with forestry via my partners and understand that there can be challenges there. They're protecting their interest. I get it. So I'm
yeah.
not judging them. I just know that can be a challenge. Would you have more runners on the course if you could, or do you feel like you're at a sweet spot in terms of total runners?
I think we're at a sweet spot because if you actually look at it, like we are large. This is only year 3, and
Mm-hmm.
we have about 2,000 runners signed up, and that's over the course of 3 distances in 3 days. But those are still large numbers for a trail race.
Yes.
And I've spent a lot of time with the Forest Service talking about this specifically, where
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I'm in line with them. I want to protect the resource of the forest
Absolutely.
and the
Yeah.
environment
Yeah.
while also hopefully offering a good experience for our runners. And we have found that the number that we're on right now, based on the last 2 years, we feel is a healthy number that we can like accommodate.
Yeah.
And that's also based on the feedback from the runners. But it's going to be a discussion every year where I have actual Forest Service employees run the races, so they get an
Yeah.
experience from the inside, so they can kind of like I might get intel from the runners or the aid stations, but like the Forest Service is looking through it through a
Very
different
different
lens. So like
lens. Yes.
I invite them in so that they can tell me like, hey, this is working, this isn't. Because the last thing I want to do is cannibalize the trails I love and all of the locals here love. Because that would just mean that we've missed the mark completely.
Yeah. Um, you being sort of a UTMB vet, there's obviously a ton of people on those trails, and
Yeah,
when I talk to people, kind of about the differences, one of the things I love about, I don't know, one of the things I should say I observe about American running compared to European running, and I'm moving to France this year. I look forward to being entrenched in the culture for a year or so, and uh, we just have limits on our permits. Like, Western states is 320. I know that you're weight watching or watching and waiting or whatever right now, so you can get in, but we have limited. Like, we don't have huge races by comparison.
correct.
I mean, this is a very general, vague question. Why do you think, outside of like permit limitations, how does UTMB pull that off? Having a firsthand account, you being at all the aid stations, it's got to be a mess out there, right? People throwing trash around.
It can be pretty chaotic. And
Yeah,
my first experience out there in 2015, I drank the Kool-Aid. I completely fell in love with the event, and I still am a
yeah,
fan of UTMB's event. I
yeah,
have, we could have a different discussion about UTMB World Series and everything else, but like
sure,
the actual event in Chamonix UTMB, it's still
yeah,
very special.
yes,
And but I think over the years, what I've realized as I've started to like appreciate it and look at it through the lens of a race director or an event or organizer, like it's reminded me of how kind of like particular, protective, and thoughtful we're going to be with TrailFest because we never want to end up like that.
mm,
I think that it's grown into something that's hard to manage. And
yeah,
even if you just look at the environmental impact, some of those trails, you'll have 5 or 6 little like user trails on the side of the main trail. And so like that trail
mm,
prism is getting larger and larger and larger. And
right,
that's something we don't want to have happen here. Like we want to make
yeah,
sure that people are on our one set single track. And
yeah,
I think as you get larger, it's harder to control those things. And you end up with bottlenecks and pinch points and conga
yeah,
lines. And those are things we want to avoid here.
yeah,
So it's, but I definitely empathize with them. It's a huge challenge. But I think some of it is that in Europe, they don't have the same restrictions or protections or agencies that are looking at the environment as a resource the way we might.
hmm,
And I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of my impression that
yeah,
they basically they don't have wilderness areas. So like all of our greatest, and this is true in the Salt Lake area, like the courses I've mapped out here for TrailFest, I would say they're like C tier trails. The A and B tier trails are the ones we can't touch because they're all wilderness. But like people are still going
mm,
to love the C tier, and then if you want to go
yes,
experience the other ones, you go out in a small group with like 2 or 3 friends and go
yeah,
like really experience the wilderness. So I think it's kind of cool that we can't access the wilderness,
hmm,
even though if we could, man, we would have some badass
I know,
courses in the United States. But it's
yeah,
great that we can.
yeah. That's a good perspective. I felt similar with like our race in the foothills. Like, there's so many places that we wanted to go, and none of us having put on a race before, we submit those for permits, and we have to go through like 5 permitting agencies to get to
Yeah,
the back downtown. And you're like, you can't run 60% of this. Like, okay. So I mean, the way you put it is good. Yeah. Like these races are at C tier, and in Salt Lake in the foothills, the C tier is awesome. Like it's incredible.
Exactly.
It's a great race. And then, yeah, if you want to go do wire or like the fun stuff up in Mill Creek and all that sort of stuff, you go for it. Just not as a, formal race.
Because you got to think, like in the Salt Lake area, you have so many people that have never even been on trail that hopefully come up and get into that C tier, and they just
Exactly.
their mind is blown, and
Exactly.
they fall in love with it.
Yes, that's our mission. I mean, part of the mission of ours is we want to make Salt Lake City the trail running capital of North America. I mean,
You talk to Finn too much, huh?
it came that was born out of a time when he and I were hanging out with Mike McMonagle and a couple of other people dreaming about putting a trail store here. And he had an exchange with someone, and that was in a text. And I was like, hey, I'm stealing, like, that's going to be the mission. Like, if we start a trail running store, that's going to be the mission of our trail running store. It didn't happen. So I put it and made it my trail series or my trail race. So that, it's I don't know where I was going with that ultimately, other than I think I like trail running a lot. That's probably it. Yeah. Yeah. So, as we wind down here, I know you've obviously run UTMB. We talked about that. What are some races that you think would be interesting future races for me to do deep dives into that are more obscure? Do you have any cool races in Europe that you have done that you like that aren't as big, or something that's on your list?
So, I mean, there are actually, so the interesting thing is if you ask anyone in Europe what the best races to cover would be, they'll give you 12 before they give you a UTMB.
Yes.
UTMB takes up all the oxygen because it's exciting. It's a great event. But there are so many grand events out there. I know there's blanking on the name right now. Lizzie Hawker, I believe, is the race director, and it's in September. Monte Rosa, Ultra Trail Monte Rosa, I think, is an incredible event that you should look into. People say it's more challenging and more beautiful than UTMB. I have not done that one yet.
Where's that at?
That is, I think it's there in the Alps, but just a different region. And that's the thing. Of the races I've been to, I love Cortina actually a little bit more than Chamonix. And although now it's a very large race, Lavaredo Ultra Trail is an incredible event. And that whole region of the Dolomites is kind of next level. Since you'll be in France, that's a place I would check out. But there's a great guy if you don't know Doug Mayer, he's okay. So he has the pulse on everything Euro trail races. And every time Laney and I go over to Chamonix, he's like, you guys need to come here in June and July, and we will run all of the best races that aren't UTMB. And there's no shortage of things. And I think, the locals there, obviously, they get the impact, they like that, but UTMB week is hard for them. It's chaotic. It's a circus. So outside of that week of end of August each year, Chamonix is a lot different. So I'd say Doug Mayer would be a great resource to pick his brain on which races you should really dive into.
Yeah, I had coffee with him when I was in Chamonix in September, and he, when he kind of communicated the stress that UTMB is on Chamonix, it feels like the stress that Sundance puts on Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And so we really like it, and we also hate it. Oh, it just logged in on your phone? That's funny.
No, the other computer logged in somehow, and it was closed.
Well, that's perfect. Here's my last question for you as we wrap up. Are you going to go to a lottery system? What do you get? I mean, with trail races that are in high demand that are sold out in May, it's going to be September. Yeah. Do you do a second one in the spring shoulder season? How do you handle this? Because more people obviously want to run it, and it may just be tough luck, and it may just be like these other in demand East Coast ones like Yeti or No Business that just sell out the day of, and it just is what it is. What's the future?
That's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about and mulling over, and I don't have an answer yet, but what made TrailFest special the first 2 years was how intimate it feels. And we give people this big Euro style event experience, but on that like personal level where like you could still come up and talk to me and like we could chat before or after the race because like it's not a circus. And so our goal moving forward is to preserve that as much as we can while still welcoming more people. And definitely the pinch point is we have a Forest Service cap, and so we can only have so many people. So we've entertained the idea of adding additional distances. Like I actually have permits for other distances. I know one comment we get from a lot of people is that, you know, Mammoth is a destination, as you mentioned. And so if I'm going to go there, I want to run something longer. And so, I mean, we have a lot of things in the works, so we could end up opening things up. But yeah, trying to find the most equitable and like fair way to get people into it is something we're working on. Like it's year 3, we haven't changed our prices. Our prices are the exact same as year 1 because we know that you have to travel to get here. We want you to feel like you're getting more value than what you paid for your entry. And like, you know, we're the same price as Way Too Cool, but I think you could argue we offer a lot compared to like, you know, a typical 50K.
But that's the fun trade-off is that when you're a destination, they're spending more money to get there, but then they also get to be separate from the world. Like as opposed to what we're trying to do in Salt Lake, we're saying, hey, there's an airport that's 10 minutes from the start line and you can still be on world-class trail. That's a different experience. It's like you're still in the hustle of a city. You're pulling people from their worlds and into there. And so I get it. Like you want to show up and you want to be able to exceed expectations. And so I hope that happens. I have no doubts that it will. It seems like from past years that people just absolutely love it. So I wish you luck in September.
Thanks. Yeah, our goal is to keep making it like summer camp for adults. You know, so even though we're in shoulder season in September, maybe we do need a true summer camp at some point.
Dude, but that would be amazing. Why not?
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you get into Western. Do you know yet?
Oh, I'm deep on the wait list. I think I'm 42 right now.
Oh, okay.
So but you know, stranger things can happen, and I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'll be there regardless. I'll be at Broken Arrow helping out some friends, and then at States, if I don't get in, I'll be pacing and helping some friends as well. So.
And then, do you have another backup A race? I guess that would make it a B race.
I know. Maybe I should just run from Auburn to Olympic Valley on Friday, and then crew my friend on the way back down.
Yeah, why not? I love it. Well, Tim, good luck, man. Thanks for your time. I guess I do want to get a quick shout out, hoping that he listens to Tom Painter, my favorite professor from the University of Utah, who you're also friends with. And yeah, man, thanks for your time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.